Hello everyone, DM Gashbad here, and we are back for our Warhammer Fantasy 8th edition escalation campaign. We're calling it Deathfang Valley. We are on round 3 and it's game number 2, which means it is Tomb King's time. My Vampire Count's army, which is now up to a mighty 600 points, will be fighting the Tomb King's player. So here you're looking at my army right now. I have got Ethrak Crowfather, that is my Necromancer. He's a level 2 with the Ruby Ring of Ruin. We have 11 skeletons. We have swords and shields, light armor. We've got a champion and a musician. We've got a mighty 24 crypt ghouls. Those are my dwellers beyond. We have a ghast in there. In the upper left, we have 2 fellbats, bunny and kindling. And in the upper right, we have my trusty crypt horrors, the tomb guardians. The scenario this time is called the Wizard's Tower. It is essentially a modified watchtower scenario from the old Warhammer Fantasy rulebook. But there's not going to be any unit starting in the tower itself. It's going to be a Wizard's Tower, which means that any wizard within so many inches has the opportunity to ransack the tower for magical secrets and get the Lore Master attribute, which means that they can cast any of the spells in any of the lores that they know. If there's more than one wizard within so many inches of the tower, then you have to roll off to decide who's controlling the tower. We have the random game length rule in effect, which means that at the end of round 3, you roll a d6. On a 6, the game ends, that's it. At the end of round 4, on a 5+, it ends, and so on and so forth. The person who is in the tower at the end of the game is the person who wins the scenario. Also, we're accumulating lore points throughout this campaign. These are going to be points that we can spend on troops and magic items in the big final battle at the very end. Every time you start a round with a unit in control of the Wizard's Tower, you gain a lore point. My wizard for this game has rolled up Invocation of Nehek and Van Hill's Danse Macabre. That's going to make a bit more difference in this game because my opponent, being Tomb Kings, he has to have a wizard, so we are going to have a rival wizard and we're not always going to get control of the library. Here you can see the battlefield as it's been set up. As you can see, that's our Wizard's Tower in the very middle. And of course, there's going to be 3 other pieces of terrain as per the scenario rules. If you want to take a look at these scenario rules, we have a link to the whole scenario campaign pack that one of the players has set up. It'll be in the show notes. Anyway, we always use the random tables to generate terrain from the Warhammer rulebook. I know a lot of people aren't real fond of those, but I actually do like them, and we've got some interesting pieces here today. In the upper left, we've got a mysterious forest. The Tomb King's player did not want that around. He's got those chariots. He doesn't need to be crashing through any forest. He doesn't care for that, so he placed that in the upper left. Over on the right, we have an Altar of Cain, so that's kind of cool. So anyone within 6 inches of that is subject to frenzy, so we could have some frenzied undead troops, which is always a treat. And over on the middle left, we have the Idol of Gork, or maybe it's Mork, who knows. Anyway, anyone within 6 inches of that can reroll failed charge distances, so that makes those chariots real dangerous because they are more likely to be able to charge in from quite a long ways off and get those nice impact hits. So if my opponent's force looks a little small, there is a very good reason for that. Let me go into what is actually on the table right now. In the upper left, he has deployed his chariots. Those are 3 Tomb King chariots with full command. A little bit further over, he's got 15 skeleton warriors. They only have a standard bearer. He's also got his Lich Priest in there, which is level 2 with the Ruby Ring of Ruin. But burrowing somewhere beneath the table, he has got his 3 Tomb Swarms and his newly painted Tomb Scorpion. So my guys are set up down below. I have put the Tomb Guardians, my Crypt Horrors, facing the Skeleton Chariots because I feel like they have the best chance for that. I put the Fellbats right in the middle because that tower is not going to get in the way of them, and they are looking to get in the way of other people. I put my Crypt Ghouls a little bit off to the side. I really want to move them into the tower as soon as possible, but I also want to have line of sight to targets. And also, I may want to bear right and move through the gap between the Altar of Cain and the Wizard's Tower if I need to. And I have my little unit of 11 skeleton warriors just kind of hanging out there on the right. They're there to just get in the way. They don't really have a tremendous function in this battle right now. My opponent wins the roll to go first, so he's going to advance a little bit cautiously. He's Tomb King, so he can't march, so he's got some limitations as to how far he can move forward. And so he's just going to tuck himself forward like that. He is going to go straight into the magic phase. Unfortunately, he doesn't roll fantastically for the Winds of Magic, and so all of his spells either fail to cast or are dispelled. That's good news for me. He's got Lore Master right now because he's in range of the Wizard's Tower, and I am not. The spells that he rolled, I'm not exactly sure what his first spell is, but I know his second is the Skull Storm, the weird template one. It's not a fantastic spell, but it may actually be really good at these low point values. Anyway, we're on to my turn, and I'm going to go straight into it. You can see that my Fellbats have just hopped over that tower. They can do that because they're within 12 inches of the general, so they all get march moves. So they have hopped in front of the Tomb King chariots, and so they are diverting them. So if the Tomb Kings want to charge something, they have to charge Fellbats. And when they overrun, they will run straight into the Idol of Gork and not really go anywhere except right where he doesn't want to go, which is presenting his flank to my Crypt Horrors. So he can either charge and reform and accept the charge from my Crypt Horrors, which is bad, or he can charge and overrun into the Idol of Gork and get charged in the flank, which is worse, or he can just sit there and do nothing, which isn't fantastic either. Anyway, you can see that my Crypt Ghouls have moved as far forward as they can. If I can, I'm going to use Van Hels to try and get into that building in the middle in my magic phase, and the skeletons have just kind of moved up on their right flank in support. So it's my magic phase, and we have to roll off to see who gets control of the Wizard's Tower, and I win that roll off. So I get my full complement of spells. I'm going to start right off with the Ruby Ring of Ruin. I'm going to go, and he's going to let that through because it is one of the least dangerous spells I can cast right now. I'm going to blast one Skeleton Warrior. Those are the only guys that I can see because that tower is in the way. But I'm going to follow up with another really nice spell, the Gaze of Nagash, and that's going to blow up 8 more of those skeletons, so those guys are really hurt, and that takes a little bit of pressure off of me. I rolled really well for how many magic dice I get to play with in this phase, so I'm going to keep casting spells, and I am going to cast Raise Dead again because it was so much fun the last time. And so this time I'm going to do it correctly. I'm going to form up a giant line of zombies right in front of his skeleton warriors. I'm going to try to prevent him from getting inside that tower. I suppose his Lich Priest could actually leave the unit and go into that tower all by his lonesome, but it doesn't sound like a great plan. Anyway, I also remembered that I have some painted zombies. Those are super old Citadel zombies that they may have been some of the very first miniatures that I ever painted. Anyway, they were in a cabinet upstairs, and I said, hey, wait a minute, I remember these guys. I'm going to pull them down, and I'm going to raise those up in front of him. That's going to be a nice 11 zombies for him to deal with. Unfortunately, I do try to cast Van Hel's Dance Macabre to get myself into the tower, but he dispels that one. It is my opponent's phase, and in the movement phase, hey, the Tomb Scorpion shows up. So he comes up from the ground, and he's lurking behind my Crypt Horrors, looking to eat those guys. Sure, the skeletons go ahead and charge those zombies. They are not afraid of them. And the chariots charge the Fellbats. Now, he could have just stood there and, shot like a couple arrow shots, which weren't really going to do anything. And because his Tomb Scorpion is now in a position to support, so it's possible that he could have stood there, did little arrow shots. The Fellbats would have probably jumped over and charged into his skeletons, and the Crypt Horrors would have charged into his chariot. It may have worked out a little bit better for him because then the Scorpion could charge into the rear of the Crypt Horrors, and maybe he could grind that out. It's hard to say. He's probably better off charging the chariots right away, wiping out those Fellbats, and keeping them from bothering his really depleted skeleton regiment, who is currently fighting the zombies. So this was probably the right call, but it was a bad situation any way you slice it. And as these guys often do, the Tomb Swarms go and roll a misfire on their appearance roll when they're tunneling up from below, and so they have to come on the board from a random table edge. So they go and appear on the extreme right flank, so they're over past the altar of Cain, past my skeletons and the ghouls. So it's my opponent's magic phase, and he loses the roll to see who controls the tower this round, which is too bad for him. But anyway, it does let me know that the other spell that he had was, I believe, the Incantation of Smiting, something like that. It's the one that gives his troops Killing Blow. So he goes and he casts that on the skeletons. He doesn't need Killing Blow against my zombies, obviously, but when he casts it on his guys, he does regrow a couple. So he's going to regrow 4 of those guys. But more importantly, he is going to cast Skullstorm, and he is going to do so with irresistible force. So this big cloud of skulls erupts from his Lich Priest and rockets through the zombies, through the tower, and through my ghouls. It's going to kill one zombie. It's going to kill 11 ghouls. This is one of the worst vortex spells. It only causes like a strength 4 hit, but he does real well. He rolls max distance on that, so it goes like 30 inches. So it rockets through all my guys, killing off 11 ghouls, but he does have to resolve the miscast, and he ends up going down 1 level. So he loses this Skullstorm spell again, which is not really going to matter because he can still get that Lore Master, so he'll just get it back again. So he's going to be down 1 level, which is bad for trying to hit casting rolls, trying for dispelling my stuff. But really, since he has the opportunity to get that Lore Master, it's not as bad as it could have been. And of course, he's killed a lot of my stuff with that. In the close combat phase, his skeletons do skeleton work, and they managed to kill all but 1 of my zombies. Now, that's really good for me. So I got 1 zombie hanging in there, just keeping him occupied, so that's nice. And of course, the chariots kill off the fell bats, no problem, and they go and reform to face those menacing tomb guardians. So it is my turn, and I have frenzied skeletons over there because they're by the altar of Cain, and I guess all the tormented souls or the smell of blood are just driving the magics that animate those guys wild. Anyway, I see no reason not to charge those guys in to further hold up that depleted skeleton warrior unit. So they're going to try and save my zombie. It's Operation Rescue Zombie. Saving Private Zombie. Anyway, they tried to make that. It's kind of a long charge, and they fail. The Cryptors, however, have no problem moving in against those chariots, so that's bad news for those chariots. And the Necromancer and the Ghouls go and occupy the tower, so it's going to be real hard for my opponent to dislodge those guys now. It doesn't do them any good in the short run, because all my magic is going to get dispelled this round. The Skeletons go, and in the close combat phase, they kill off that poor, Private Ryan zombie. But on the other side of the table, those horrors absolutely tear those chariots apart. They pull the chariots out from underneath the charioteers and just smash them on the head with that. So those guys are gone. It looks like my crypt horrors didn't take any wounds whatsoever. And we just reform to face that tomb scorpion that's cropped up. Okay, it is my opponent's turn, and he does not have a lot of really good options. So he decides to take that tomb scorpion and charge the tower to try and eat some ghouls. The tomb swarms, which are over there on the right, they move into range of the altar of Cain. They're just trying to hustle over there and help protect their master. The Lich Priest in his magic phase goes and fires off the ruby ring right away, and he goes and blows up one of my crypt horrors. Looks like I was wounded in the fight with the chariots, and so he did 2 wounds with that ruby ring to blow up one of my guys. And in the close combat phase, I send 9 of my Crypt Ghouls and my Crypt Ghast to go try and deal with that Tomb Scorpion. The Scorpion is going to go and snip the head off of my Ghast, so that's him with his nice top hat dead on the ground. And he's also going to kill 1 more Ghoul along with it. But then the poison comes in, and so we've got 21 poisoned attacks coming at that Tomb Scorpion, and that is too much for that guy. I think with all those attacks, I just kill that Tomb Scorpion just straight out. I murder him as he's crawling through the doorway of the tower, and he is no more. So it's my turn, and I have a unit of Frenzied Skeletons. I try to restrain those guys, but they are too maniacal. There's too much orc left in those skeletons. So I fail my restraint check, and they go tearing off to charge into the closest unit, which is those Tomb Swarms. The horrors, they were going to go sort out that Tomb Scorpion, but it just died. It just got torn apart by those ghouls, so they turn around again to go face the Skeleton Warriors and the Lich Priest. In my magic phase, I get the ruby ring off, and I blast 2 skeletons. All my other magic is shut down, though. But here's a bit of fantastic rolling on my part. So those skeletons, which are, let's face it, they're pretty garbage troops, they come in. But they are frenzied, which means the front rank is going to get extra attacks. So that's going to bump them up to, I'm going to get an extra 5 attacks. Each of those Tomb Swarm bases has 5 attacks base. But because each one is a base, they're only going to get a total of 3 attacks total. But it doesn't matter anyway, because they're initiative 1, which means my skeletons at initiative 2 get to go first, and they absolutely go nuts. Frenzied skeletons are the best. They go and just kill off a whole ton of those Tomb Scorpions, or Tomb Swarms, I should say. The Tomb Swarms do very little in return. They've got poison, they got lots of attacks, but they just have a tough time finishing off these skeletons. Can't pick flesh off things that don't have any flesh. Anyway, they only kill off 1 skeleton, and when all is said and done, I end up putting 13 wounds on those Tomb Swarms, so I think he's only left with 2 wounds remaining. So that went really badly, really fast. My opponent has basically just about run out of troops. So it is my opponent's turn, and he is looking like he is in a bit of trouble, so he's trying some desperate gambits here. He jumps his Lich Priest out of the unit, so he leaves that skeleton bodyguard, which honestly is looking a little thinned down now, and they are facing down in charge of those Crypt Horrors, which is not really where you want to be. So he moves out, and he fires off the Ruby Ring of Ruin at the Crypt Ghouls in the tower. And flaming attacks can reroll to wound people that are in the tower, so he's going to burn up 2 ghouls, but that is all the magic that he is able to get off. In the combat phase, yeah, frenzied skeletons, they just carve up the last of those tomb swarms, and they reform to face the Lich Priest, who is now feeling really bad about the way things are going. And sure enough, it's my turn again. So the horrors charge into the flank of the skeleton warriors, and the skeletons charge into the rear of the Lich Priest. Yeah, that's not great. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to skip my magic phase entirely. I don't want to risk a miscast and blowing myself up at the cusp of victory here. So in the close combat phase, yeah, skeletons go and chop the head off the Lich Priest and scatter his mummified remains as far as they can, and the Crypt Horrors go and smash all of those skeletons into dust. So that was a really nice combat round. It's a big win to me, so I got 2 wins in this round, feeling really good. I've kind of maxed out all my points, with the exception of it kind of would have been nice if the game had lasted a little bit longer, because I was getting a lore point every time I started a round in control of that tower, and again, like last round, this only went to 3 rounds, so I only got 2 lore points. Hey, which I really can't complain about. I'm doing real well in this campaign, and it's nice just to get that and to get the win and all that. It was kind of a stomping. I just was in a really good position with just the right troops for this thing. I knew those Crypt Horrors matched up well against those chariots. Those Fellbats, if he didn't get spells off to polish off those guys, and since it was going to be real hard for him to draw line of sight through that tower, it was going to be pretty unlikely. So those Fellbats are just great redirectors, just great ways to neutralize that skeleton chariot regiment. And then those ghouls, like I said, they're just maniacs inside that tower. They are really good at defending buildings. They've just a lot of time spent lurking in graveyards, and so they know how to pounce out from stonework and eat things. Anyway, I did enjoy the game. It was a lot of fun. I do like these small Warhammer games. We do go and rack this up, and my opponent's going to try something new. So he's going to try light magic next time. We're going to try a new game. You'll see that on the next video. It's going to be the same armies, but he's going to swap out the Nehekaran lore, and he's going to use light magic instead. See what blasty spells do against my guys. And so you see that next. Thanks for watching. Leave any comments or questions or anything like that below, and I will see you on the next one.